You can't stagnate because if you do stagnate, you'll be left behind, especially in our environment today. Things are changing so fast that if you don't keep up, you will be left behind.
Folks, today I've got a great guest on. His name is Chad C. Betz, and Chad is going to talk to us about success, authentic success.
You got it. It's an authentic success.
And my brain is still functioning a little bit. But folks, you can tell we're going to have a good time today, but the whole thing about this is really that authentic success. And not only is that the title of the book, but you can go to www.anauthenticsuccess.com and you're going to find out more information about the book and about the author, Chad. So, Chad, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot for having me today.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, before we even started recording, I'm really excited to talk to you about this because there are moments in our life, on our professional life, when things change. And there's one thing that you really share this powerful story about you sitting alone in your car after work and feeling like you failed, but you were really a successful guy, we'll say on paper, right? And so I'm wondering what was going through your mind and what did you eventually realize that completely changed your perspective on success and how you're dealing with this stuff?
Yeah, imagine you just had one of those days at work after it's a long week, 10, 12-hour day. You get to your car and you're in the parking garage. You're kind of looking at that fence in front of you that's blocking off the sections. You hear your coworker screech around the corner and go the dunk, 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 dunk as they go over the seams in the road. And you're just kind of stuck in your head. And that's where I was. And I'm just asking myself, is this all I've done with my life? What am I doing? And I did feel like a failure. And I'll tell you, that is a very isolating feeling. I was thinking about it later. It's kind of like if you fall in a pit in the jungle and you're looking up at the sky and you're saying, how am I going to get out of this? There's no one here to help me. And you get that despair and that fear. And you don't know if you can move forward. But then you think people are telling you, oh, but you are successful. So am I crazy? Am I not grateful? What is the issue here? And it really was that I was focused on what I thought society and family and everybody else wanted me to be in success and not necessarily what I wanted. And that's kind of where the disconnect happened. So not only was I not up the ladder where I thought I'd be, my ladder was against the wrong wall.
It's yeah, oftentimes things like that, you're leaning against the wrong
Mm,
wall.
yeah.
With that being said, though, how does somebody really realize that? Because, like I said, we get caught up. We're in this professional life, and a lot of times it's monetary success that a lot of us are looking at. And you've achieved that, and you're there, and you can have what you want, you can do what you want. But then, like you said, you're sitting there in your car, and you hear thump 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 thump. They're driving off and going over those little bumps. But um, was it that you're dissatisfied, or was there something like a feeling of I'm missing something, but I don't know what it is?
It's a little bit of that too. It's one part was that the values of the company didn't really fit my values. So there was a disconnect there. And although I didn't recognize it as that at the time, internally, I realized that. And there was a disconnect of what I pictured success to be in my mind because of what I've heard and what people have told me versus what true fulfillment is. And that's I had to do some experimentation, and I use side gigs and little projects to on the side to kind of figure that out. But it does take some time. It's not like I was sitting in my car. Oh God, I'm awful. Oh, it's great now. It took time to kind of hit that bottom. Kind of figure out what the issue was. The values, not having wrong expectations of myself and what I was expecting in my work life, and then developing a plan to get out of it, and that took time.
It sounds like to me it's like that alignment thing because we may go into a career or whatever it might be, and initially that's where we're in alignment with, and that's what we're doing. But as time years go by, I guess we really have to realize that we change and that business or what you're doing may not have changed with you. Is that kind of how it goes? And it's not in alignment, like you said?
That happens. Yeah. What I wanted when I was 20 is not necessarily what I want now. Yeah, so those things change. As you said, we grow, we evolve. But some people do stay in the same job their entire career, like many teachers do. But they don't stagnate. Things change, techniques change, there's different ways of teaching, there's different students, and you grow with it, and you keep adapting. The problem is when you don't adapt and you kind of stay in that old way, even though you're evolving, that's a road to mediocrity. Because you start slowing down, and that's one of the age stereotypes too. That you kind of older people fall behind. So I've gotten into my 50s. I'm kind of settled in, and there's no need to change. I've always done it this way, and we start getting mediocre. And when that happens, we're vulnerable to the newer person who gets paid half as much, who can come in and do it. Whereas, if we grow, even if it is in the same job, but we grow and stay focused and we keep purpose, we're able to, move forward in our own way. And I'm not here to tell you how to succeed, and because what your life experiences have given you is different than me. So what you define success as is different from me. I can only offer guidance. I can't tell you how to do things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I have a question about this because you were successful, and this is just an assumption of mine is that why do you think that more high achievers experience this feeling that you went through? And why is it something that we rarely admit out loud?
We get stuck in moving forward towards the goal. We've set a path, and we keep going forward. I would say it's like a tractor trailer cruising down the highway, and the one thing we do as achievers is we step on the gas, and we're not getting results. So what do we do? We step on the gas harder. And we keep pushing forward and forward and forward without really realizing that we don't want to be going that way. We want to go over there. And we feel that if we give up on all this experience that we've had in the past, that we've wasted our life. But we're not giving up our experiences. We've earned that, and that experience can help us throughout the rest of our life too. It's just where it's pointed. If we stay in that truck going straight down the highway in the wrong direction, it's not going to serve us very well. But if we slow down, realize, oh, we want to take that exit, and then slowly pivot over lane by lane to get into the exit lane so we can take that exit, then we're able to leverage that experience and that momentum to go in the direction we want, rather than just letting momentum carry us forward wherever it's going to take us.
Yeah. Um, it sounds like to me something that I think that you may have talked about in your book and stuff is the reinvention of your mind or mindset.
Hmm.
And I think you just also mentioned about the modern careers requiring, you know, younger people coming in that could do the job. They might do it, dare I say, cheaper and faster because they're accepting of this new way that, and we're kind of set in that, yeah, our standard comfortable old way. Is there anything specific that we could do to change our mindset, to reinvent our mindset, if that makes any sense?
It does, and I do talk about that in the book a little bit. But it's what's your toolbox? Everybody has a toolbox. We have our minds, we have our bodies, and we have our mindset. I do martial arts, and there's a kata called Sanchin, which is the three battles: mind, body, spirit. And I've kind of adapted that to regular life, but spirit, I call that more mindset. So your mind, being a constant lifelong learner, you can't stagnate, because if you do stagnate, you'll be left behind, especially in our environment today. Things are changing so fast that if you don't keep up, you will be left behind. I like to have everything in my phone. You have your calendar, you have your tasking tool, and you have your note taking. So everything's right there. So building habits to overcome that mindset. And then one piece that a lot of people forget about are our bodies. It's hard to say you're a high energy individual if you get winded walking up the stairs. It's important for us to maintain our bodies both through diet, through exercise, and especially as we get older, by going to the doctor and making sure that any health issues are treated. If in your 50s you're not active, what are you going to do in your 80s? So it's important to maintain that body too.
I'm glad that you mentioned about the physicality, physicalness, because that's just as important, I think. Being mobile to keep the body in motion, to keep our mind in motion and moving forward as well. And a lot of this stuff may sound intimidating to people.
You don't have to jump in with both feet. Learning is not going back to school. Learning is reading 3 or 4 pages a day. Just baby steps. Taking the time and you read, and all of a sudden you're reading a little bit more. You know what? Maybe I will take that online class. And you grow and you advance on your pace. With, like you said, with the exercise, if you look at me, you see I won't say no to a second piece of cake, but I do work out. And if you're intimidated by the gym, go for a walk. Get outside. Part of that's part of the body experience is also kind of the outside experience, having the sun on your face, and just there's something that's uplifting about doing things outside. Where I could see, although I do go to a gym, I can see how it could be intimidating. So if you're intimidated by that, build up to it. Go for that walk. Go for a bike ride. If you're able to, walk in the woods. Get out in the nature. And then when the mindset, again, baby steps. If you have that failure mindset, maybe talk to a coach, talk to a trusted advisor. Not necessarily friends or family, because they love us and want to protect us and may misguide us. Talk to somebody who has more expertise. But get that.
Uh, one of the things I've always thought about, and I always say, is that we are our own worst critic and we sabotage ourselves in a lot of different ways. And I believe you also discuss a concept that you have that's called sunk cost fallacy
Yes.
and a comparison traps. These aren't really ideas that people typically associate with personal growth. The sunk cost fallacy and the comparison traps and the observation bias and things like that. But which one do you see sabotaging people the most?
I would say it's the sunk cost. What we've done is we have invested so much into our career, years or decades, or into something else that we've been doing, and we keep investing. And kind of like I was talking about with the truck, we all we do is step on the gas more, and then we look back and say, oh, I can't change. I've been doing this for 20 years. How am I going to change? So instead of looking at what you've invested, stop right now and say, look at, if I were to start again right now, would I do the same thing? And if the answer is no, you might want to make a change. And again, it doesn't have to be intimidating. It's not, we're not running off into the sunset chasing our passions. We're making little adjustments, maybe starting a side business, maybe learning something new, but doing it so we're pivoting over so we get into the lane that we want to be.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but on that sunk cost fallacy, it's kind of like what you were just saying is we feel as though we've invested this time and
Hmm.
we don't want to change because we say, well, then I wasted my time. But
Exactly.
so instead, we should be really looking at this as, um, what do we want to say? It's more of an asset. You've gained all this knowledge. You're just moving to get more knowledge. Is that a good way to look at it about making those changes and things like that?
It is, and you're using the knowledge differently. It doesn't go away. You have all this experience, but that doesn't mean that that experience can only fit down this path. You can grab that experience and point it this way and go in a completely different direction. You're not wasting anything. You've earned that. You've worked hard for that experience. It's right. You're right to want to keep it, but it's how you adapt and how you use it in the future that makes the difference. That fear that we've wasted our lives can permeate and make us really think that, oh, I've been doing this. I got to go back to school. I got to do this. I got to do that. And that's not necessarily the case. We have earned that experience. It's, as you put it, it is an asset, and we can put that asset to work doing something else.
So then, how can someone really transform their past accomplishments from an anchor, because it's holding them back, or mentally they're thinking it's holding them back, into like a launch pad for the what's next, what's next in my life, what's next in my career type of thing.
Well, one is recognizing that they have had those accomplishments. When we've been working towards someone else's idea of success, sometimes it can feel like we haven't accomplished anything. I mean, that's kind of how I felt in the car. It's like, I haven't done anything. But looking back, I did a lot. I helped build companies, I helped grow things. It just wasn't as beneficial to me as I wanted it to be. But that's showing that I was able to accomplish. That's okay. I can do it here. If I can do it here, then I can do it here. Then, getting a better understanding of where you want to go. What's your purpose? And I use what I call the 20 goals exercise, where I write down 20 goals and I look for patterns. And I came across this accidentally. I don't know if you've ever done this, but you just go and it's like, oh, what do I want to do? Well, I want to do this. I want to do that. And I wrote down goals from mundane to really crazy. And then started seeing those patterns. I want to help people grow as a leader. I want to help them, find their success. And that's what led to the books, to the speaking, to interviews like this and, helping people. And once I started doing that, I had to make a decision on how to do it. So understanding I can, finding out what, and then starting to pursue it. And that's kind of the trail that I followed.
Hmm. Yeah, just to let folks know again, uh, I'm having a conversation with Chad Betz, and Chad is an author, speaker, executive coach, and he is the founder of An Authentic Success. And because after decades of helping organizations solve, the complex business challenges, like you were saying, you experienced a deep personal turning point that led you to question yourself of what am I doing? Have I done enough? Where am I going? Where can people really go to find out more information and a little bit more about your book?
The best place to go would be my website, authenticsuccess.com, and you'll find information on that, but also links to my social media so you can see all my free content as well.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll make sure that we have everything in the show notes as well. Now, Chad, I want to ask you, what defines authentic success? I mean, if someone's listening today and is driving home from work and feeling exactly like you once did, wondering, have I missed something? Have I missed an opportunity? What am I doing? What's next? And things like that. What what would you call authentic success?
I would say it's success on our own terms. Society and other social media and family, they push us towards ideas. I mean, society, money and business is success. But if that were really the case, then Ebenezer Scrooge would be a hero, not a tragic character. So there's other things that we need to consider. It's if it's all money and business, can a stay-at-home mom be successful? Of course she can. It's because she defines success differently than the really ultra focused business person who's focused really on that building the company. So, what does it mean for you? Stepping back, understanding what you want out of life, and making sure you encompass everything, not just a career. We get too fixated on our careers, but our health, our spirituality, our family, our friends, all of those things come in to have a robust life. So having that life is really the idea of success and how you balance it. Some people want more friends, some people want more family, some people want more business. It all depends on what you want your life experiences to be. And that's where, we can only guide. We can't tell you what success is. It's something you have to discover for yourself, but it's something that, having a trusted advisor or a mentor or coach can help you along.
Definitely with that. And like we were saying earlier, I mean, we sabotage and we critique and criticize ourselves more than anybody else. And to go along with what you just said is don't let success be defined by somebody else. Somebody says, "Oh, you're not successful unless you make a six figure." Well, it's you may not be in the position or that job may not take you to that six figure, but it doesn't mean that you're not successful. Uh, and I like how you said too, determine success, you know, within yourself or for yourself. Um, but that's hard for people to do. They're always looking out for somebody else saying, "This is what I've done," and then we look at them, go, "I wish I could do that too. I guess I'm a failure." I want to ask you a somewhat of a personal question. So, um, what's what's one belief about success that you held for a long time that turned out to be completely wrong? And how has how has letting that go of that belief changed your life?
It's funny when I was going to school, I would go to college at the end. It was Liar's Poker was the book that was out, and Wall Street was out. So what did that show? I mean, both of those were cautionary tales, but many of us kind of took that as an anthem. The older folks, they don't know. We got to push forward no matter what, and break the rules, and you'll find success by doing these things that way. And I actually got into that industry of working with mortgage securities and such, but it's not the money and the work. You end up doing it for others, not yourself. And if you're doing it just for money, there's no purpose. And if there's no purpose, there's no satisfaction. So if you're not doing if you're doing a job just for the paycheck, you're not going to find satisfaction. And you're going to fall into what I call the frustration energy cycle, where you start getting frustrated because you're achieving, you're getting things done, but it doesn't feel that way. So you get a little frustrated. So what do? You work harder. So you get more frustrated. So you work harder and you get more frustrated. And it just goes and it becomes a cycle where you just get frustration to the point where you end up in your car, looking at the wall, saying, what am I doing with my life?
And I would imagine there's so many people, so many of us, me included, asking ourselves that. And we may ask ourselves that on a daily basis, which means maybe it's time to make that change, leap of faith.
Yeah. And it's okay to ask yourself on a daily basis, even if things are going well. One tool I use, it's called the OODA loop, OODA. O, observe. What's around you? How are you feeling? What's going on? The second O, orient. Okay, this is not exactly what I want. I want to be more like that. If I do this, this, and this, I can get to there. So you orient. The D, decide. Change doesn't happen without commitment. So make a decision. I'm decided I'm going to go from here to there. And then the A is act. Actually go from here to there. And you can do that over and over and over again. And sometimes you're going to observe and you're going to say, and you're going to orient, and you orient, it's like, it's good. I'm on the right path. So you decide to stay on the path, and that's your action. So if you do that over and over again, you don't miss out on opportunities as you evolve. Because as you mentioned earlier, what we wanted is when we're 20 is not necessarily what we want today, and that can change with different life experiences. A promotion can change your ideas. A marriage can change your ideas, or something negative. A health issue can change your ideas. All these things that happen in our lives can change your ideas and what success means. So keeping that constant vigil of thinking about where we want to go and how we want to get there. And it's not even, it may sound like an obsession, but it's not. The OODA loop's so built into my process, I don't even think about it as such. It just happens. And I keep going. And again, it's not like I'm changing this way, I'm changing that way. Most of the time, I stay on the path. But that constant reevaluation keeps you on track.
Yeah, the OODA loop. That's great. You just made me rethink what I said earlier about the comparison. Some people or a lot of people compare themselves to somebody else, and that may not be the best because you're not them. But I guess it's okay not to compare, but to maybe use that as a motivating factor. But I may get there in a different fashion, or that 100,000 a year is not my goal, but that success is whatever it might be. So I guess what I want to say is if you're listening, if you heard what I said about don't compare yourself, it's don't compare yourself to be like the person. So I should correct and say that. But it's probably okay to use it as a motivating factor. Is that okay to say, Chad?
Yeah, to maybe to emulate rather than to copy. So like I like to read biographies, and Teddy Roosevelt. I really find him fascinating. And things like he was very frail. Now I was never frail, but I wasn't physically active. He really drove himself for physical activity, and that inspired me to be more physically active. So am I copying him? Am I comparing myself to him? Maybe a little, but I am emulating some of the things he did. And he doesn't, I mean, he did other things that I would never do. So the person you're emulating doesn't have to be perfect. They could do things that you don't like. Don't do those things. Just do the thing that you like. On the flip side of it, be careful with comparison because we never have the full story. Sometimes we end up comparing our lives to someone else's highlight reel. So we see their vacation, which was great. We see that promotion, which is amazing. But sometimes, believe it or not, people exaggerate on social media. So it may not be exactly what they're saying, and we don't see the behind the scenes. We don't see the arguments over the debt incurred from that vacation. We don't see the hard work that went behind that promotion. It doesn't just happen instantly. Or if somebody's starting a business, we don't see those long hours that they put in or that have failed 2 months later. So we have to be careful on comparing ourselves to a highlight reel. Compare ourselves, to your point, just directionally. I like the idea of owning a business. Okay, they own the business. I see what they have. It's kind of cool. Maybe I want to do that. So what's the next step? Talk to an expert. Don't talk to a family member or a friend. Talk to someone who's done it, who knows what they're talking about, and who will talk to you honestly about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you can make a decision based on facts rather than an emotion or a imperfect view of what you think someone else has achieved.
Yeah. Oh boy, am I ever I'm glad you said that about it's okay to look to family and friends, but don't look to family and friends for certain things because
Right,
one, they're there to protect you, just like sometimes your reactions are there to protect yourself. But they may say, "Oh, don't do it because you don't know. You might not make it.
right.
You might fail." And then you're going, "Oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't." Or falsely, they may say, "Oh yeah, go for it, man." And it's the wrong thing to go for. So you got to be really careful. Like you said, either find a mentor, find somebody that's been through that and experienced it, and ask them. And hopefully, it's not a relative or a friend. Some they may give you some right answers, but I think oftentimes well, here, I'll put it this way, Chad. 80% of the times, it's not the right answer.
I agree. It's like going old school here. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. He says, if you want to fail, ask your friends and family for advice. It's true because they have emotions attached, like you said. They want to protect you and they want to see you the best happen for you. But they're nervous. They don't know your capabilities like you do. They don't know the situation like you see it. They see these the restaurant coaching business where the guy's yelling at the people trying to coach them. They say, "Oh God, you're starting a restaurant. It's awful. You can't do it. It'll fail. It fails in the first 3 days or whatever." And it's just they're not coming from expertise. They're coming from love and support, but you really need that expertise. Use your family for that love and support, and then giving it back and forth. But get the real story from the experts, and that's the best way to do it. So I agree with you 100%.
Definitely. Chad, anything that you want to add to this before we close out for people who are listening and watching?
I would say understand that you still have good years ahead of you. Even if you're retired at 65, many of us are living into our 80s. What are you going to do with the next 20 years? Make sure you're healthy enough to continue working and doing the things you want to do. So maintain the exercise, go to the doctor, eat well. Have the mindset of achievement. You still have it. You have purpose. There's no reason to give up your goals. And then be a lifelong learner. continue that path of learning, and you'll find it fulfilling whether you use it in a career and family and hobbies, whatever. But if you follow those paths, have the right mindset, keep that mind sharp, and keep the body in line, so that you have the energy to do what you want to do, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Definitely. Chad C. Betz, author of An Authentic Success.com. Thank you very much. I learned a few things today, so I'm going to implement those things into my life and my thinking and my mindset. So thank you again for setting me on the right path to look at things.
Thanks for having me. It was a great conversation.
You're welcome.